Retirement? I repeated, staring at the envelope on the table. I'm 29. The room was silent. Gwen sat across from me, arms crossed, eyes cold. Beside her, the HR rep offered me a thin, awkward smile like I should be grateful. The letter read, Voluntary Early Retirement Package, Annabella Silva. I wanted to laugh, or scream, or both. But instead, I nodded, picked up the envelope, and walked out. Past my desk with the half-deflated birthday balloons and the card that said Queen of Data. Just that morning, I had been smiling, laughing with my team, passing out donuts like I did every year. Let me back up. My name is Annabella. I'm a data analyst at one of the largest healthcare insurance companies in Boston. For the past 6 years, I've been crunching numbers, optimizing systems, and saving this company millions through performance models and risk analyses no one else could figure out. I wasn't just another cubicle worker. I was the one they called when nothing else worked. When a project was failing, when the projections were off, when a department was leaking funds, my name always came up. I was proud of that. People said I had a future here. My previous boss told me, just before she left, that I was being considered for team lead. You're next, she'd whispered with a wink. Then came Gwen. She arrived out of nowhere, imported from some consultancy firm with her MBA lingo and veiled condescension. She smiled with her mouth, not her eyes. At first, she acted like she valued my work, but it quickly became clear Gwen didn't like competition. She especially didn't like it when it came wrapped in a 29-year-old woman who knew her numbers better than she did. She started undermining me in small ways, clarifying my presentations, scheduling meetings before work hours, asking me to mentor junior analysts who didn't want mentorship. They wanted my job. Still, I kept pushing. I thought if I just stayed sharp, stayed silent, I'd win her over. 2 weeks before my birthday, I got an email from HR. They were updating internal performance benchmarks and needed my yearly contributions documented. I compiled everything: projects, metrics, feedback. I even bought a new blazer. On the day of my birthday, I walked into work thinking something big was coming. Turns out I was right, just not the kind of big I expected. By 3:15 p.m., I was holding a letter suggesting I retire, at 29. I didn't open the envelope until I got home that evening. I just stared at it while sitting on my couch in my birthday dress, still half hoping it was some twisted mistake. But the language was clear. Given your long-term contributions and the opportunity to explore future endeavors, we invite you to consider an early transition from active employment. Translation? Leave quietly, and we'll throw you a small check. Stay, and, well, you'll see. But the signs had been there. 2 weeks before that day, things had already begun to shift. It started subtly, like most corporate betrayals do. Gwen stopped including me in leadership sync meetings I used to run. When I asked, she said, "Oh, I didn't think you'd want to sit through those anymore. You've done enough heavy lifting this quarter." Enough heavy lifting? I was literally rebuilding our claims forecasting model, solo. Then came the odd assignments. Gwen would dump half-baked projects on me late in the day and request a full report first thing tomorrow. If I missed one detail or asked for clarification, she'd forward my emails to others with comments like, "Let's support Annabella as she navigates this learning curve." Learning curve? I had been here longer than her. She changed the way we logged work hours. Everyone now had to document productivity in a shared spreadsheet, visible to all. I wasn't worried at first, my outputs were clean. But then I noticed something strange. My name appeared to be the only one highlighted in red for incomplete documentation, even when others submitted less. At lunch, people got quieter around me. Team Slack chats grew shorter. My jokes stopped getting responses. One afternoon, I overheard 2 colleagues whispering in the break room, "She doesn't know yet?" No, HR's framing it as strategic offboarding. They're trying to make it look like a choice. I should have walked in, confronted them, but I froze. I'd always believed that if you just worked hard, stayed valuable, you'd be safe. But now I felt like I was being erased, slowly but methodically. A few days before my birthday, Gwen asked to see me privately. Her office smelled like fresh leather and expensive diffusers. She smiled as I sat down, then tapped a printed graph. "This is your wellness index," she said. "You've been clocking more than 60 hours a week. That's not sustainable, Annabella. Have you considered what it's doing to your health?" "I'm fine," I said, confused. "You deserve a break. You've given this company your best years. Maybe it's time to think bigger, think beyond here." It wasn't a threat. It was worse. It was coded in concern. Gwen wasn't firing me. She was pushing me out with a hug. And when I didn't take the bait, things got colder. She stopped responding to emails, redirected projects to junior analysts. In meetings, she referred to me in the past tense. "Annabella helped build the framework last year. Now Rachel will be leading phase 2. My name disappeared from dashboards I created. When I asked about it, I got vague replies. "We're streamlining ownership visibility," or "cross-training benefits the whole team." It felt like being ghosted at work. Except instead of a guy not texting back, it was my livelihood fading into smoke. The day before my birthday, Gwen left a note on my desk. "Let's chat tomorrow afternoon. HR will join us. Nothing urgent, just planning for the next chapter." Gee. I stared at it for a long time. That night I couldn't sleep. Something in my gut told me this wasn't just a meeting. It was a closure, a curtain call I hadn't asked for. And I was right. After the envelope, nothing was the same. I returned to work the next morning because I didn't know what else to do. Maybe part of me wanted to pretend it hadn't happened. Maybe part of me thought anyone would say, "This is wrong." No one did. When I entered the office, the birthday decorations were gone. My desk looked like it had been wiped clean overnight. The card was gone. Even the Queen of Data post-it someone had drawn was missing. I opened my laptop. My access to the forecasting dashboard had been revoked. I stared at the error message for a full minute, blinking. I walked to Gwen's office. Her door was open. She looked up from her laptop and smiled like nothing was wrong. "Morning." "Oh, HR must have updated your credentials already. Nothing to worry about." "Updated?" I asked. "It's part of the retirement transition process. Standard procedure. I thought you'd seen that in the package." "I haven't accepted anything." "No, but we're just preparing in case." In case. In case I folded. In case I gave up. By lunch, my name had been removed from the team's project tracking system. My email signature had a new line under it. "Transition Advisor, in review." I hadn't approved that. No one had even asked. At 2 p.m., Gwen called a department meeting. Everyone filed into the glass-walled conference room. I took my usual seat, but she motioned for me to sit near the back. Then, she clicked to the first slide of her presentation. "Today," she began, "we'll be walking through our updated strategy for claims data optimization. This model has been developed in close collaboration with our analytics team." I froze. The first chart that appeared was mine. It was the exact same model I'd spent months building, just with a different title and a new color scheme. "Huge thanks to Rachel for leading the implementation of this," Gwen said, nodding toward one of the junior analysts. Rachel looked as stunned as I did. I raised my hand. "Excuse me, I'm sorry, but that model was—" Gwen cut me off. "Annabella, we appreciate your past contributions, but this meeting is about the current rollout." Past. The word hit harder than I expected. After the meeting, I confronted Rachel. She looked uncomfortable. "I didn't know," she said. "Gwen asked me to present it. She said you'd stepped back." Stepped back? I hadn't stepped back. I had been pushed off the edge. That evening, I checked my company profile page. It now said I was part of Special Projects Advisory Status, a title with no team, no projects, no purpose. The next day, I received a formal notice from HR. "As part of your upcoming transition, we're inviting you to participate in an exit interview to provide valuable feedback on your experience." I hadn't even signed anything, but the system had already started moving without me. I called HR. The woman on the other end sounded robotic, like she was reading from a script. "We're simply streamlining workflows. You're under no obligation to accept, but the process is well underway. Gwen has already submitted the preliminary justification paperwork." "Justification paperwork?" I asked for a copy. She paused, then, I'm not authorized to release internal assessments. That was the moment it clicked. Gwen had been preparing this for weeks, maybe months. Every concern, every email forwarded, every performance review note she had edited, she'd been building a case to paint me as expendable. The retirement package wasn't a favor, it was a trap. A polished, HR-approved method of erasing someone without ever calling it termination. And no one would question it. After all, on paper, it looked like I was walking away, gracefully, quietly, but I wasn't ready to be quiet. That night, I called my friend Maya, a former HR analyst who'd left the company a year ago. I need you to tell me something, I said. How easy is it for a manager to fabricate an offboarding process without the employee's consent? Maya didn't even hesitate. If they control the narrative and document carefully, very. And if they're connected high enough, they can mark it as pre-approved and fast-track it. I asked her if she could check something. The next day, Maya texted me a screenshot. It was from an internal system she still had access to through her consulting firm. It was a memo, dated 3 weeks before my birthday, sent from Gwen to the VP of HR. Subject: Strategic Phase-Out High-Cost Analysts. Annabella Silva's comp-to-yield ratio is no longer aligned with team direction. She's not disruptive, but she's a legacy thinker, resistant to new approaches, recommending preemptive offboarding with optional early retirement framing. Legacy thinker, high cost. I wasn't being let go for performance. I was being cut to lower metrics on someone's quarterly slide deck. I stared at the memo for a long time, not crying, not angry, focused. They wanted me to leave quietly. I was going to do the opposite. I didn't confront Gwen right away. I wanted to. God, I wanted to storm into her office, slam that memo onto her desk, and watch the smugness drain from her face. But I knew better. You don't take down someone like Gwen by yelling. You take her down by letting her think she's already won. So I played the part. I stopped asking questions. I smiled in meetings. I pretended to accept the idea that I was transitioning out. When HR sent me calendar invites for exit interviews, I clicked tentative. I didn't show up, but I didn't cancel either. And Gwen, she relaxed. She started speaking about me in the past tense more often. Annabella helped build the early models, but we're taking things in a different direction now. She even gave Rachel a little promotion, acting data strategy lead. It stung, but I kept my head down. Meanwhile, I was gathering everything. I reached out to Maya again. I need more, I told her. Anything that shows this wasn't just a performance decision. She sent me a copy of an internal audit tool, an old dashboard I used to help design. It tracked contributions, project ownership, and system activity. It wasn't accessible through regular employee portals anymore, but Maya had a back door. She helped me generate a report showing that over the past fiscal year, I had contributed to over 80% of all high-impact data initiatives in the department. Rachel, 12%, but the final touch came from a Slack export. Maya found a private message Gwen had sent to another manager weeks before my birthday. Annabella's good, but she's become a symbol. Too well liked. Makes it harder to push our restructuring model. I'm phasing her out, slow burn. I stared at those words. Too well liked. That's why I was being erased. Not inefficient, not unskilled, just inconvenient. One afternoon, Gwen passed my desk and said with a rehearsed smile, "How's the reflection going? I know this can be a hard transition." I looked up at her and said, "I'm grateful, actually. This time has given me a lot of clarity." She smiled wider, clearly proud of herself. "Good to hear. Best thing is to move forward gracefully." I nodded. That's the plan. Inside, I was boiling, but outside, I was ice. She thought I was folding, and that's exactly what I needed her to believe. Because if Gwen thought I was still a threat, she'd double down, tighten control, maybe cover her tracks. But if she thought I'd accepted defeat, she'd get comfortable, she'd get careless. And that's when people like Gwen start making mistakes. I spent the next week quietly preparing my next move. Not a tantrum, not a confrontation, a spotlight, a megaphone. They wanted the story buried in a conference room. I was going to put it on a stage. The email went out at 8:04 a.m. on a Thursday. Subject line, Transparency and Transition, My Experience at Next Shore. From Annabella Silva. To All Staff, Corporate Division. CC, Human Resources, Senior Leadership, Gwen Langley. Inside was a short, professional message. As I've been invited to retire early at 29, I felt it was necessary to share my journey for the sake of clarity, accountability, and the values we all claim to uphold. Attached, you'll find data and communications that speak for themselves. Annabella attached were 3 PDF files. One was a report from the internal audit dashboard showing my contribution to company performance over the past 2 years. Project after project tied to measurable revenue impact. The second was a Slack screenshot. Gwen's message, time-stamped and clear. Annabella's good, but she's become a symbol. Too well liked, makes it harder to push our restructuring model. I'm phasing her out, slow burn. The third? The memo to the VP of HR recommending my preemptive offboarding for no reason beyond optics. I didn't write a dramatic letter. I didn't accuse anyone directly. I just laid out the facts, cold and undeniable. Then I shut my laptop and went into work. By 9:30, the office was in chaos. Whispers flew through the hallways like wildfire. People stared when I walked by. Some nodded in solidarity, others looked away. At 10:15, I was summoned to conference room 7. Inside were 2 senior VPs, the head of HR and Gwen. She was already seated, arms crossed, jaw clenched. But her eyes betrayed something new, fear. Annabella, said VP Patel, the head of strategy. We received your message. This is serious. I nodded. I only shared facts. Gwen jumped in. This is a gross violation of internal policy. Disseminating private communications taken out of context. I cut her off. No context changes that message, Gwen. You said you were phasing me out because I was too well liked. That isn't a performance issue. That's a personal vendetta. VP Patel leaned forward. We'd like to understand what happened from your perspective. I spoke clearly, calmly. I laid it all out, being removed from meetings without explanation, having my projects reassigned, the misleading performance documentation, the retirement package dropped on my desk on my 29th birthday. Then I placed a printed copy of the dashboard report on the table. These are the metrics Gwen said I wasn't aligned with. The VP skimmed it, eyebrows rising. You generated this? I helped build the system, I said. Maya Cruz, one of our former HR analysts, confirmed its integrity. That name landed like a thunderclap. Maya was known and respected. She'd left the company on good terms. If she was involved, this wasn't just some disgruntled employee rant. Gwen's voice sharpened. Even if this is true, it was handled internally. She's retaliating against performance feedback. I turned to her. No, Gwen. I'm revealing a system of abuse masked as feedback. And you didn't just target me. I found 2 others who were quietly forced out under similar language in your memos. Everyone froze. You built a pipeline, Gwen. A process for eliminating people who were inconvenient to your agenda. HR tried to cut in. We'll need to review everything, but I wasn't finished. There's more. An external journalist has been following this story for 2 weeks. She's seen the documents too. If I'm terminated for speaking out or blacklisted in this industry, that becomes the story. That landed. The room fell silent. VP Patel cleared his throat. We'll be conducting a formal internal investigation immediately. Gwen, you are to step back from all managerial duties effective today. Gwen stood up abruptly, her chair scraping the floor. This is outrageous. You're letting one person destroy my entire career? No, I said. You did that yourself. She glared at me, but the panic in her eyes was loud and clear. I gathered my things and left the room. The hallway outside was dead quiet, until I stepped into the open workspace and saw Rachel, the junior analyst Gwen had promoted, standing by my desk. She handed me something. "I think this belongs to you," she said. It was my old Queen of Data sticky note. "Thank you," I whispered. She looked down. "I'm sorry I didn't know what she was doing to you, but now people are starting to talk." "Good. Let them talk. Let them see the truth." The next 72 hours moved fast. Gwen was officially placed on administrative leave pending the internal investigation. Her name disappeared from the org chart. The door to her office was locked by IT before the end of the day. By Monday, an email was sent company-wide. Effective immediately, Gwen Langley will no longer be overseeing data strategy operations. A third-party compliance firm will review recent managerial decisions to ensure alignment with corporate ethics. Translation: she was done. Rumors spread fast. Someone said she'd been escorted out of the building Friday night. Another claimed she tried to delete emails from her laptop before IT froze her account. No one really knew for sure, but it didn't matter. Gwen's reign was over. The mood around the office shifted. People made eye contact again. Colleagues who had avoided me for weeks now lingered near my desk, casually dropping by to say they were sorry, that they'd had no idea what was really happening. I didn't hold grudges, but I didn't forget either. On Tuesday, I received a message on LinkedIn from a startup in San Francisco, then another from a healthcare analytics firm in DC. Both offered to fly me out for interviews. I hadn't even updated my resume. And then there was the email from Maya. "They're freaking out. You just shook one of the biggest departments in the company. I'm proud of you." It hit me harder than I expected. Not the pride. The fact that it took this much just to be heard. I walked past Gwen's empty office later that day. The lights were off. Her framed quote, "Lead with purpose," still hung on the wall. I wondered if she even believed it. That afternoon, VP Patel invited me into his office. He offered me a formal apology, not a press release, not PR damage control, a real one. Face to face. "We failed to catch the pattern. You brought it into the light. You've done more than protect yourself. You protected the people who come after you." I nodded. "I didn't do this to burn the company down. I just didn't want to disappear quietly. I understand, and we'd like to make things right." They offered to reinstate my full position, even a promotion, but I turned it down, because by then I'd made a decision. It wasn't about staying or leaving anymore. It was about reclaiming the narrative on my own terms. Before I left that day, I cleaned out my desk for real. No cardboard box, no tears. I placed the Queen of Data sticky note into my bag. One of the interns handed me a card signed by half the team. Inside, someone had written, "You showed us what strength looks like, thank you." I smiled. For the first time in weeks, it wasn't forced. But this wasn't the end. Not yet. Because Gwen wasn't going quietly either. And the real twist? It hadn't happened yet. 2 months later, I got an unexpected email. Gwen was suing the company. Her claim? Defamation. She alleged that the internal investigation had damaged her professional reputation, and, shockingly, she named me as a contributing party. I wasn't surprised. Desperate people reach for matches when they're already standing in flames. Her case made it to a private arbitration hearing, but word leaked quickly. Industry circles buzzed. The woman who once ruled our floor with passive-aggressive smiles was now trying to claw her way back from exile. The company's legal team asked if I'd testify. I didn't hesitate. During the hearing, Gwen tried to spin the entire narrative. This was a coordinated takedown by a junior employee who wanted my position. She weaponized internal data. She manipulated staff. She violated confidentiality. But she'd underestimated one thing. Receipts don't lie. Their lawyers brought out the full Slack logs, emails. The dashboard Gwen claimed was falsified was traced, line by line, back to her approval weeks prior. And then came the real twist. In an old backup server, IT recovered a deleted file, a presentation Gwen had drafted but never sent. Phase 1, Legacy Reduction Strategy, identify high-cost, high-visibility staff for early exit framing. It was her blueprint for everything, written in her own words. When the arbitrators asked her to explain it, Gwen froze. She looked around the room, realizing for the first time there was no one left to protect her. She mumbled something about internal restructuring language, but it was over. Her case was dismissed. And worse? The panel ruled her actions ethically negligent, adding her to a quiet industry watch list. Word got out. Fast. 3 firms that had considered hiring her rescinded offers. A trade publication ran a piece. The Fall of Gwen Langley, When Strategy Becomes Sabotage. I didn't celebrate. I didn't post anything. But when I got a message from a young analyst at another company who wrote, "Your story gave me the courage to document everything," I knew it had all been worth it. They tried to write my ending for me, but I took the pen back, and now I write my own stories.